Losing to Gain Part 1. In Philippians chapter 3 verse 17, the apostle Paul is urging the church to follow him. The setting of this verse is the place where Paul states the cost of one's following Christ. In verses 7 and 8, he speaks of suffering the loss of all things for the excellency of the knowledge of Christ his Lord. He suffered the loss of his Judaism. He could not follow Christ and commingle his past religion with him. The power of Judaism hinged on the law and the covenants. Nothing could be more cemented into an Israelite's mind than the religion that covers the entire Old Testament. But to follow Christ in grace, the old way of doing things must be set aside. Today's believer cannot go on in the things of the Lord, holding on to past erroneous religion. Second, all of Paul's past religiously and otherwise was to be lost in preference to the new life in Christ. A new creature in Christ need not to carry the bondage of his past, whether he was abused or misjudged or hated or forsaken, because when he is saved, he enters a new life where the past is to be forgotten. Third, there must be a radical change in Paul's understanding of people. As a Jew, he always considered himself one of God's chosen people. When Christ called him, he was called to be an apostle to the Gentiles. The Jews hated Gentiles intensely. Once Jesus of Nazareth even called Gentiles dogs. This must have been an issue Paul had to deal with, being the apostle to the Gentiles. Yet there is never to be found an ounce of prejudice in his message or his life. Believers who follow Paul are not prejudiced against anyone. To God, there are only three races of people: Jews, Gentiles, and the born again believers or the new creation in Christ. Nationalities and ethnic cultures do not matter. Fourth, Paul, as a theologian, must have had a real struggle within himself when Christ led him into the truth of the mystery. Theologians are seldom given to any mystic thoughts or ideas, yet Paul must bring a gospel where a mystery, Christ in the human, is the basic foundation of truth. Now we can see that Christ chose Paul because he had a temperament that could enter into the mind of Christ and accept the mystery of Christ in the believer. We know of no other New Testament writers who did this, and there are few theologians today who write of the great mystery, Christ in you, the hope of glory. Everything Paul lost of himself, he regained in Christ. Every believer must consider a radical changes in his life when Christ is birthed in them. The future of Christianity rises or falls on this point. The old life of the human died at Christ's cross. If there is no change in a believer's lifestyle, then Christ means nothing. To God be the glory. God bless you.